take questions. We have a mic. This is being live streamed on Hawks.com, so if you can, please wait for the mic and then ask your question.
Good seeing you, my friend. Zach Klein from Channel 2. Your just outlook for the season. What excites you?
It's always an exciting time when you finally see the group together. The past few weeks with all the guys in town and the open runs and seeing guys and the development of their bodies, the excitement is just like, how is it all going to come together? You know, the newness here. We signed Dejante. We had a trade. We had some guys that are coming in that are slotted more so for rotation minutes. So how is that going to impact what we currently have been doing the past few years? I think that's what's most exciting.
Landry, kind of added to that, did you do everything that you guys wanted to do, or there's still some things sort of unsettled, maybe waiting to see how things shake out in camp in the preseason?
The biggest thing that we set out to do was approach our defense. We had a few objectives from that standpoint, and as I mentioned when introducing Dejante, for what he does on the court, as well as some of the leadership components, as well as just being a high-level player, I think we really captured a lot of the objectives that we set out to do. And getting Mo Harkless, Justin Holiday, that veteran presence so far has been really good for our group. So seeing them in training camp, in open runs and working with our young guys, we know we've got some good stuff there from a leadership standpoint. So that was another big thing for our locker room moving forward.
You touched on a little bit about seeing where guys are body-wise and everything like that. Where are they health-wise, especially guys like Bogey and Clint and John and everybody who had kind of like off-season stuff going on?
Yeah, so everyone's pretty good. Bogey right now is not going to be 100% for training camp. Our goal for him is to be completely 100 when it comes to the regular season. So we'll start ramping it up for him as these next few weeks go on before the October date. But as far as John, his finger's going to look crazy, but it's still functional. It's like some guys' jump shots in the NBA. And let's see who else. AJ, I know he wasn't at Summer League. So he's been full go the last few weeks, which has been super encouraging to see, getting him out on the court and seeing what he's got out there. And, yeah, Clint should be good to go as well. So this year going into training camp, we're pretty healthy. It would be nice to have the full boat with Bogey, but just kind of is what it is right now. But he's progressing well.
One last one.
Yeah. And Jalen, yes, yeah, he's full go as well. He's full go after the knee procedure. He's good to go.
Terrell Thomas, These Urban Times. I wanted to know what will change during this preseason and trying to kind of training camp, because of course you'll be going overseas for preseason games. So what will change as far as preparation is concerned, and do you think that'll have an effect on opening night?
I'm not sure what effect it'll have on opening night. We get to start a little bit earlier because of that overseas trip, and for us, it's kind of what I mentioned before. Like, guys have been in, and I think that mesh is starting to happen earlier than what a typical season would look like. So how it's going to ultimately impact the guys, I'm not sure, but that is going to be a long trip and a long time away from the States. So hopefully, we're preparing well about how to, enjoy it while we're over there, come together while we're over there, but then also get our rest as well.
Hey, Landry. I wanted to try my luck and see if we could get an update on the Deandre Hunter contract negotiations.
Your luck is going to be, it is still ongoing. We hope to get some stuff done, but as many of you know, we still have some time there before the season starts. But it is currently in the process for sure.
Speaking of Deandre Hunter, what can you tell us about his condition, and also what do you expect from him this year?
We expect big things from Deandre, right? He's going into, is this his third, fourth year? So I know the last few seasons they've been injury plagued, and that's an unfortunate thing for him. But for his position in the prototypical way in which those wings of the NBA are, like, we're going to need a guy like him to continue to take steps and advancements in order for us to be the team that we want to be and get to where we ultimately want to go. But he's looked really good so far. He's healthy, big, strong, works on his body. He's a hard worker. So we're excited about what he can do this year for sure.
Hey Landry, Alex Chung from HawksFanTV.com. Obviously, the crown jewel of this offseason was Dejante Murray. What is it about Dejante's game that made this front office want to acquire a guy like him? Obviously, we gave up a lot of assets, so just wanted to hear your perspective on that.
Dejante is an all-star caliber player. He gives us an added depth as a primary ball handler. So him and Trey working together, I know a lot of people are like, well, how's that going to work? But in the NBA, when you have that level of versatility and just optionality with guys with different specific tools, it's really helpful as we get further into the season and into the playoffs. So it gives our coaching staff a nice tool belt to work with. But he's a great leader. He's come up in a system where he's learned a lot from Pop, and he's going to bring that into our culture, and we're going to integrate that, not just for him specifically, for the rest of our team. So it's going to be something that's good for everyone involved.
Landry, what's the number one thing you want to learn from this team by the time camp breaks and game one gets here?
I think the number one thing, I think there's many, but I just want to see how well we can come together with some of the newness, especially at the proverbial top there with Dejante and the impact that he's going to have. A big piece and theme that we're talking about right now is just a level of connection. And although we're all connected, that doesn't always necessitate unity. And how unified are we going to be going into the season? And what's that going to look like when triggers and pressures do start to happen? It's not a game where you can completely avoid those. It's about how are you going to respond in those critical moments, because it's in those moments that we see amongst the league and in history past with championship teams, like you have to do well in those particular times. And that could be anything. It could be frustrations of playing time. It could be injuries. It could be whatever triggers you name. But how are we going to respond, and how are we preparing our guys for those specific moments, because they are coming?
With the addition of Kyle to the front office this offseason, I understand some of the expectations that you guys have for him with player development, but I guess how much does he have the final say of what those plans are going to be for each individual guy?
So we're working in partnership with him. We're kind of laying out a vision of how we ultimately want that specific department to run. And Kyle has been terrific for that job so far. He has the personality for it. He obviously has the credentials as a former player, but his mindset is always about development. And you look at just his career path, and what made him great was his shooting ability, and that just doesn't happen overnight. That's a full-blown process. That's attention to detail, about setting vision for where you ultimately want to go and how you ultimately want things to look. So if we can now push that over into helping our players establish, at the end of your career, what are they going to say about you, and then reverse engineer it into steps in a strategic plan, at least while they're with the Hawks, he's going to be instrumental in that. But so far, it's been about, hey, Kyle, here's the expectations of at least what I'm thinking. What do you think? And having that shared partnership to make sure that we both have something at stake, because then we're going to be all in with that. But so far, he's been a terrific asset for us.
Hey, Landry, Jamila Johnson, ATLHawksFans.com. As a GM, what are your thoughts when you see your guys participating in the Pro-Am runs during the summer?
I personally love it, especially when it's multiple guys and they are at one particular event. We had Trey, Dejante, and John all at one. When I see that happening, that means that they collaborated on their own to make that work. And when you have that sense of shared connection and unity preceding the season, just kind of gives you a leg up. So I was really excited to see it. I love the competitive nature in which they're playing with. I think they make each other better, and I hope it materializes as something for us this season.
Thank you.
I had a question. Are y'all comfortable with where you're at right now with the salary cap, or are you going to try to wiggle down a little bit? I think it's a little over $1 million over right now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're right. We are a little bit over the tax, but it's going to be sort of a day-to-day thing. It's going to be looking at how is our team progressing, what's potential market look like, all these other factors that are going to go into how we decide to either stay put or move out of it. But I don't have like a definitive answer right now. There's a lot of variables that need to come into place first in order to have a better outlook on what that's going to look like.
With two players who have gotten very used to playing on the ball, now together on the court, what's the key through camp, through the preseason, through the beginning of the regular season, to get them acclimated to playing with each other?
Well, it's just you gotta throw them out there for one, and have them first see the potential in which it could become. I fully expect it to be a little clunky at first because you're trying to change habits with specific guys. And for our two primary ball handlers, those guys are competitors. Dejante and Trey are absolute competitors. So I expect them to make the necessary adjustments that it's going to take in order for us to make that work so that we can be better. But, the reality of the situation is any course of development, there's going to be conflict before. And I don't mean it in a negative connotation. I just mean like there's some friction that has to take place in order for us to grow through that. So we'll see what that looks like. I know Coach and his staff are going to work on great schemes and ways in which we want to play this year that are going to give them like a general outlook and plan of how that's going to look. And then at the end of the day, they're going to have to perform and leverage how smart they are and their competitive nature to make it work.
Brad Rowland from Dime. You have 14 guys on guaranteed contracts.
Yes.
What is your plan for the 15th spot? Is it just fluid as training camp opens, or do you have a plan to fill that spot?
Right now, we're going to keep it open. Again, this is just helping with flexibility with our tax situation.
When you lead the league in total points and assists, you're doing something right. But where would you like Trey to improve the most?
For Trey to improve the most, a lot of it is just his maturation and leadership. Right now, he's been in the league for this is year 5 now. So with where he's going and where we're currently at, that's the next stage of development that we've got to get out of him. The on-court stuff, we're always going to say, here's the elements defensively that are going to help raise us in that league standing and ranking. That, if we can jump a few more spots ahead, you just look at the numbers of championship caliber teams over the course of history, and we've got to get that down. You mentioned the offense, and that's always going to be there because those guys are just so good in that area. But from a defensive standpoint, we've got to be better.
Landry, what do you say to a guy like John, who obviously has been in trade rumors probably for a couple of years right now, and this past offseason I think it was even sort of next level. Do you feel the need to say something to him in terms of what you feel is his places on this team or the future?
Yeah, you do. I don't think we're doing our job if we're not communicating with guys, especially throughout that process. And with John, and I've said it before, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, he's always going to remain professional. But the growth point for him, and as I was sitting down with him just literally yesterday, was, hey, I know that this is being in your shoes as a former player. I understand, being in trade talks and what that's like and how that's impacting not just you, but your immediate circle and your family. Those are things that we have to always consider. What you've got to continue to do is communicate through that. Don't allow things to kind of sit in and boil out, and let's have a shared partnership. Like, we're going to give you everything we got and be honest with you about where we're at. But you're still here for a reason. And that's something that we're really excited about going forward, because looking at how you can impact this game, especially with the addition of Dejante in that first unit, that can only elevate you and where you ultimately want to go. And as we all know, if that happens, then at least we take another step. But for him, it's just about constant communication and trying to see things from his perspective, understanding the humanity before the player in all of this right now. I do. And that's really a credit to him, because he comes in not bashful about how he feels, but also like, I understand like where we're at in the business of this NBA league. But I know I'm here and I know where we're trying to go specifically right now. So he's been good.
Hey, Caleb Johnson, 92.9 The Game. You spoke a lot since you become GM about wanting to improve defense for this team, and obviously going to get Dejante was a big part of that. Do you feel like with the other moves that you've made that you've improved the defense of this team, at least to your comfort level?
I think that we are definitely taking the steps necessary to ultimately get there. To say we're going to be perfect tomorrow, no, I wouldn't say that. I think that this is a process of development, and it's not just about injecting those defensive-minded players into the rotation. Like Justin Holiday, is a perfect example. He's always been known as a 3-and-D guy. He's lengthy and has historically done pretty well at his position, especially guarding fours. Other components of it are looking at what we currently have, looking at body mechanics, and it's like, are there small ways in which we can improve, a simple turn of hips or hip flexibility just for our current guys that can help open things up a little bit more. With Justin speaking about it's the length, it's the body, but it's also his voice. And Dejante's going to bring the same thing. When you're on the court and he's barking out certain things in a way that's productive and positive, at least it's giving an awareness to our guys. And also, at least we're communicating. Like, when we have more communication on the court consistently, that's when we're at our best. And we've shown to be at our best is when we actually do that. It's when we stop talking that our defense actually takes a bigger dive than what it needs to be. So getting guys that are actually willing to talk out there is going to be crucial for us.
Landry, pardon me if this has already been asked, but obviously there was a lot of speculation through the offseason. Maybe you're going to totally blow things up. You obviously made a major move, but the core of the team is still here. Are y'all comfortable that what you saw 2 years ago, that potential is still there rather than what we saw last season?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You look at that team, and there's still carryover. There's still guys that are on our current roster that were instrumental in that run. And, we look at last season and go, yeah, it's a tough bid. But, of course, things were going to change after 2 seasons ago, and we're not taking anybody by surprise. And so last year, you could see teams visibly preparing for us in a way in which we probably hadn't seen before. And I always have classified that as something that's good, because at least it gives us a sober look at where we're currently at and where we need to go. And from that team, we've got guys that are still on this current roster that have taken their own steps, and hopefully with Dejante, it kind of brings in another guy that's already there that's willing to move forward at the same pace the other guys are at. So,
Landry, you mentioned culture and connection. Do you think this trip of halfway around the world could be a blessing in disguise? It's only 2 games to be there over a week, but maybe brings guys closer together and doing stuff away from the court?
Yeah. When you get into any foreign territory, you're going to go to what's familiar, and what's most familiar is each other in this standpoint. So not that it's forced connection or unity, but it is just something that's going to be a natural byproduct. Now, we need to help facilitate spaces for them to actually cultivate that and allow it to grow a little bit more. But certainly getting out of the States is at least setting us up to do that. Cool. Thanks, everyone.
We now have head coach Nate McMillan. Raise your hand if you have a question.
Hi, Nate.
Somebody get that phone.
Just curious, how are you feeling heading into training camp about where everyone is body-wise, health-wise, and everything like that?
Really excited. This has been really a long off season for us. 2 years ago it was a short off season, and we went into training camp, and we had really a number of injuries and procedures that was done on our players. Really excited about this season, this off season, and going into the season and starting tomorrow. It's been totally opposite than it was 2 years ago, in the sense that we had a long off season. We talked about the things that we needed to improve on, as far as making the roster, making this team better. I thought that we brought on some players that will help us do that, but also our off-season training. We was able to get out with our guys, get our guys back, get our young guys in the gym, and really work on the areas that we feel we needed to improve on. Going into this season, unlike, again, last season, we had our guys in early. We had 10, 12 guys in the month of August. Playing, doing some drills as well as 5-on-5. The month of September, we had pretty much all of our guys in playing 5-on-5, which is really exciting for me. Of course, I didn't watch those guys at that time. For me, It was like having your kids at home, and you know they're in the backyard playing. That was a positive for us because we feel that our conditioning wasn't where it needed to be last season, and I thought that had a huge impact on us.
Hey, Coach. AJ from Hawks Fan TV. Wanted to ask you, kind of piggyback off that question, a lot of new faces on the roster. So what kind of possibilities and challenges does that present to your coaching staff heading into the season?
Well, again, it's exciting to really, it is a different team in the sense that we do have a lot of new faces, and we have a young group, you know, with the addition of our 2 draft picks and, you know, bringing in Aaron Holiday, you know, to our roster. Jalen will, you know, get minutes this year. It's somewhat of a young group, but it's exciting because I really felt that Landry and the organization addressed what we needed to improve and get better. And it's going to be competitive. You know, there won't be anything given to our guys. You will have to earn it. And I think that makes for a exciting training camp.
Hey, Coach, you talk about the new faces coming in. Obviously, that's excitement. You also want to improve this team defensively, and I just want to ask about one particular guy, Onyeka. Thoughts about him, what you look for him for this year, another year for him of experience in the league and with this team.
Yeah, I've talked with him really all summer long. And, you know, one of the things that we really wanted him to do was play in the summer league and get more time. I wanted to play through him during that time, but that didn't happen in the sense that Jalen had a procedure that really put him down for the entire summer. And those were our 2 young guys that I really wanted to develop in our summer league. But Onyeka has worked all summer long, you know, with our coaches. He's been in Atlanta for most of the summer. And, you know, the things that we're talking about with him is, you know, he's done a solid job of just being a solid backup with his play. And I think each year, my 2 years that I've been here, his minutes has increased because of that play. You know, the things that I want him to do is be a better rebounder, be even better at the rebounding. We want to kind of put the ball in our 5-man, their hands, and allow them to play with it. And, you know, a guy that I've talked to him a lot about is Bam. I think he and Bam have similar talents in the sense that, you know, he can handle the ball. He can shoot the ball. We're not just yet ready to stretch him behind the 3, but there'll be opportunities for him to take that mid-range shot, and I want him to look for that. But his ability to handle the ball, I think he does a solid job of defending his position, help position, blocking shots. All of those things are things that we want him to improve on.
Coach, Dejante Murray, obviously elite defender, and he came here to fulfill a need. Can a player arrive to a team and inspire his teammates to also raise their games to that, almost to that level? And if so, can you pinpoint some examples in your coaching history where you saw that happen?
Absolutely. He has already done that. He has already done that. You know, I invited our team out to Las Vegas to, you know, see our draft picks play and to really kind of bond and, you know, continue to work on that chemistry. And Dejante was one of the first guys out there. He was one of the first guys at the meeting. And, you know, our conversations have gone like, Coach, whatever you need, I'm here to do it. And he's looking forward. He's really excited to come and be a part of this organization. You know, just, 3 weeks ago. We were sitting in the training room and we was talking, and I asked him about his summer, and he said, I asked him, has he talked to any of the guys, and he said he had just talked to Trey, and Trey asked him to come out to Los Angeles, and he said, I'm in Atlanta, and Trey said, I'll be there. So he has already had that type of impact. And Trey came in early September. He's been playing 5-on-5 with our guys. So he has already had an impact on our team. I'll have to get to know him even more, and that'll start tomorrow when I see him out on the floor and, see how he engages with the team. But he has been nothing but a pro with a lot of positive energy this offseason since picking him up.
Hey, Coach Raphael from the three-point conversion. We saw Deandre Hunter break out last year in the playoffs. How does his role offensively expand?
Well, I want him to just play. We've talked about that. We know that Dre is in a contract year, and I've talked to him about that. And he's in a good place. He's able to work out this summer. Last year he couldn't. Last year during the month of August and September, he had a procedure where he couldn't do anything. He's been playing 5-on-5. He looks good mentally. He seems like he's in a really good place. And, he's focusing on trying to do whatever it takes to help this team win. And, so we've had those conversations about his role this season. It doesn't change. We're going to have to see how things work out. That first unit is going to have to get out there and play, and they're going to have to build that chemistry and learn to play together. And his role will eventually come, and it'll be created through the play of that starting five. So the main thing is he is focusing on trying to help this team win and get better, and he doesn't have concerns about a contract or putting up big numbers. The only big number that he's concerned about is the winning column.
Coach, when it comes to the preseason travel, how much do you think that'll help when it comes to building chemistry, especially between Murray and the rest of the people that have been here for a while?
Yeah, well, we're taking this trip across the ocean, and it's going to Abu Dhabi. That's a long trip. I went to Mumbai when I was in Indiana, and it's a great opportunity for our guys to bond. And we're looking at trying to put them in position for that to happen. We're actually going over there a little earlier than Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee is coming over maybe 2 days before the game. We will spend about 9-10 days over there because we want our guys to spend that time together. We will have some of our family to travel with us, but it is an opportunity for the players to bond. Coming back, we only have 4 preseason games, so coming back, we'll have 2 games, and we'll have enough time to adjust and get ourselves ready for the regular season. But, I like this trip. It's a great opportunity to really, see another part of the world. And, you don't get those opportunities a lot.
Hey, Coach. For a guy like Jalen Johnson, who was kind of finding a little bit of a footing toward the end of last season, I guess what's the expectation for him coming into this season? And do you expect it to be a big training camp battle between maybe him and Mo and Kaminsky to have that backup 4 position?
Well, I thought it was really good that Jalen wanted to play in the G League. I think the minutes that he got there really helped him. He walks different now. He seems like he has really matured in a year, in just a year's time. And he knows that he's got to battle and compete for those minutes. All of our guys have to do that. The great thing about having the players that we have at multiple positions, they're going to have to earn it. They'll get an opportunity to compete for those minutes, but they're going to have to earn the minutes that they get out on the floor, and Jalen is ready for that. He wasn't able to do a lot for most of the summer, but the month of August and September, he's been able to play some 5-on-5, and he looks really good. He's excited about the opportunity and the challenge, and I'm sure he's looking forward to getting started tomorrow.
Hey, Coach, your coaching staff underwent some changes this summer. Chris Gent's gone. One, how do you feel about the new look coaching staff? And then two, what made you decide to want to bring on Coach Longobardi?
Well, as losing Coach Gent, he had an opportunity that he felt was best for him, and I hated to see him leave, but it gave me an opportunity to go out and search for, again, just as the organization was looking for players, I was looking for a coach that could help us. He has a resume on the defensive end of the floor where he's had a lot of success, and he's coached a lot of successful teams as well as players. And, when talking to a number of coaches around the league that he has worked for, Tyrone Lue, Doc Rivers, a number of those guys, they praised him. And when I had my interview with him and was conversating with him about his approach and his style, both of us see it the same way. He is really focused on the defensive end of the floor. He's excited about the opportunity and the challenge of turning this defense around. And I just like what I heard. I like the things that I saw from him. He has been in from day one, and he has, come here, and basically his family is going to stay in Cleveland. And, he is throwing everything into the basket to help us turn this defense around, because that's the number one thing that I think we need to improve on. And I'm looking forward to working with them this year.
Coach McMillan, Terrell Thomas, These Urban Times. Two-part question. I wanted to know if you've had a chance yet to sit down with Trae Young and possibly, with there being so many new members on this roster, kind of speak with him as far as your expectations from a leadership standpoint, and then from yourself. Are there any goals that you set throughout the season for yourself and where you like to see improvement?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, back in June, I went to talk with Trae. And this was before, really, it was early June, before everything really got started, as far as selecting players in the draft and what we wanted to do in the free agent market. So I've been in constant contact with Trae and really all of our players, and I had an opportunity to spend a couple of days with Trae when I flew out to Oklahoma City and just talked about this past season and areas that we need to improve on. And, one of the big areas that I feel we need to improve on is the connection between the two of us. I think that we need to be better at communicating with each other and, what we want to do and how we want to go about doing it. And, his leadership, both on the floor in the locker room. Those are things that I talked to him about. It's a situation where he has just inherited this. He's the face of the franchise, and it's just something that he has inherited, and he will have to work at and become better. So, yes, we have talked about next season, or at that time we was talking about next season, the things that we wanted to do better and improve on, and he has started to do that. We talked about coming out to Vegas and inviting all the players out in Vegas They also, and Trey set up a time where, as a team, they did some things together. Trey coming back in September is important. We talked about the importance of that his team needed to see him here in Atlanta. And he came back, and he's been back. So, when we were trying to make the deal for Murray, we was in constant contact because that was a move that he really felt the organization should make, that Murray could help us. And, as I told him, we're bringing in another guard and an all-star guard. So what do you know what that means for you? And what that means is you're going to be playing without the ball more than you probably ever have. And he was really excited about the opportunity to play off the ball, learn to play off the ball, and play with Murray. So, yes, we've been in constant conversation about the season, upcoming season, expectations, and our goals.
Nate, I know that playing good team defense isn't a matter of just putting good defenders out there and letting them go. But when you look at your roster now from a personnel standpoint, do you think this team has the potential to be a better defensive team based on the guys that you have now?
I do. And it's as you mentioned, it's more of a mindset. It's a commitment. And, as I said, after my last game or my last loss, I often write down, things that we need to improve on. And defense was one of the things that an area we needed to improve on. And when I write that down, those are the first things that we're going to work on. So that commitment starts tomorrow with us. The conditioning part starts tomorrow with us. And I feel that if we get that commitment and we're better conditioned to play both ends of the floor and play the style that I feel we need to, we're going to be in good shape.
Nate, do you think initially that Trey and Dejante will be so concerned with making sure each other is getting touches that it might be too unselfish, at least initially?
Well, we got, as a coach, the way you think about this going into it, it's not, I'm not worried about Murray and Trey. We got 5 guys in that lineup. We got Deandre who is in a contract year. So you got to make sure that he understands and his mindset is right. We got John Collins who wants to be a part as well. So the chemistry of that group is going to have to play out, and I think it will. When we're focusing on playing the game the right way, playing the game together, playing the game to win. And I think if we do that, we take that approach and we win games, guys will be happy. So it's not just Murray and Trey, it's our 5 starters in Deandre and John and Clint. That chemistry has to work with all of those guys, and I think you throw a bogey in there as well. So that is something that we'll work on day one, and I think it'll take some time, but we'll eventually get it.
Nate, what a part of the relationship between you and Trey, maybe fragile is the wrong word, however you would want to describe it, felt that you needed to go to Oklahoma to visit with him. And was that an example of Trey taking the next step in his maturity process to say, yeah, come on, let's break bread and talk about it?
Yeah, but what I talked to him about is we need to have a conversation. And where are you? And I need to come see you. I'm in Oklahoma City, Coach. Come anytime. I'll be there tomorrow. Okay, and I jumped on a plane and went out to Oklahoma City, and the boys got a beautiful spread out there. A really nice setup. I brought my my shorts and my sneakers, and we worked out. And we talked about everything. You know, we talked about this past season. We talked about the things that he needed to work on. I wanted to know what he felt he needed to work on. And I talked about, you know, the things that Miami did against us and, you know, my thoughts on next season, how I would like to use him. You know, so I was playing point. And we were running him off of some different sets. And, you know, was telling him these are the things that I foresee trying to do with you next season. And at that time, we didn't have Murray. But I felt that we needed to add this to his game and to our style of play. And so we had those conversations. The maturity is going to come. You know, I've been in this business for a long time, and you know, these young guys, they have to go through you know, this time. You know, the first 4 years, they're trying to figure out and establish themselves. You know, Trey now has a family. He has a little one that changes you. You know, and I think the experiences that he has had over the last couple years, and you know, certainly that Miami series, that will change you. And I think the good players, the great players, they learn from that. And that's something that we feel that that series, we need to learn from that. And Miami showed us that we have to improve and get better, and showed Trey that you got to learn to play a different style of ball. You know, what you did was great, but you can do more. And, you know, Trey is up for that. He understands that. I was there 2 days.
Also, when was that trip out there?
That was June.
In June, okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Murray trade, obviously a big move there, but you kept the other 4 starters, Bogey back as well. So the core of what y'all did 2 years ago is kind of still here when a lot of people were thinking that was going to get totally blown up. Are you glad that y'all, you know, it wasn't a total overhaul, and what tells you that what you did 2 years ago, that group has that potential still to maybe mesh with Murray and get back to that level?
Well, I just felt like last year we can be better simply with our approach. And adding the talent and the guys that we did to the roster, that certainly will help us. But I thought we lost focus last season in the sense it was a short off season. We had a number of guys who had injuries, were dealing with injuries at the start of the season. You know, once we get into season, it's really difficult to start a season and you have injury and you're injured as a player. You're really playing catch up throughout that season. And we had COVID to hit the entire roster. You know, so I thought we were some fat cats coming into the season last year. And so that focus, we got to regain that focus right from the start. You know, starting tomorrow, in what we want and what we want to become. You know, because my question to the team, you know, I had this. I was in the doctor's office the other day, and this guy recognized me, and he got all excited, and he's talking about Coach McMillan and wanted to take pictures. And this young lady, older lady, was like, "Who is that?" And he's like, "That's the coach of the Hawks." Who are the Hawks? Who are the Atlanta Hawks? And I took that different. It was like, that's a good question. Who are we? You know, 2 years ago, we go to the Eastern Conference Finals. Last year, we finished 9th, and we're in the play-in tournament. Who are we? And that is the question I'm going to pose to our guys tonight. Who are we? Who do we want to become? And how do we get there? And, you know, so that's the mindset that I have with our guys. We got to regain that focus, understand what we're here for, and then give them that vision and that kind of that roadmap on how we're going to become that group. So we have to establish, create our identity. And, the last 2 seasons are now behind us. It's a new year, new opportunity, new challenge. And we start tomorrow working on creating it.
Coach, I want to go back to what you were talking about earlier. You talked about John Collins dealing with trade rumors, so he have something to prove. Then you got Deandre Hunter, his contract. Then you got 2 superstars that's playing together now, trying to figure out playing with each other. Have you been in a predicament like this as a coach? And then also, how do you communicate to them that, of course, the number one goal is winning and we'll be all right?
I have been in, this situation, and John and I had a deep conversation about, this off season. He's ready to roll. John has been a guy that, since I've been here, every day he comes in, and that guy's ready to rock and roll. He's ready to play. But I did talk to him about teams and trade talk. And as I said to him, the one thing that I was surprised about when I went from playing to coaching is conversations that management have. And management they talk about everybody. Everybody's talked about. Really, everybody's talked about. And a lot of times it may not be the organization talking about the trade. It may be some other team calling you on that. But everybody gets talked about. And so you can't worry about that. You can't be concerned about that. And a lot of times that's good. Other teams have interest in you. So we had that conversation, and I talked about the time when I was a week before training camp. I was on the trading blocks, and the organization wasn't honest with me. And I asked the organization, "Am I really on the trade blocks?" And they said no. And I asked the coach who lived in the same city, who was coaching the team that was talking about trading for me, "Are you guys trying to trade for me?" He's like, "Yes, I want you." Okay. And I go into the facility and I'm working out. It's a week before training camp, and they are still telling me, "No, we're not trying to trade you." And I actually see this guy on the 6 o'clock evening news get off a plane. It's live coverage. And he's coming to visit the city, Seattle, to see if he wants to be traded there. And that organization had just told me that we're not trying to trade you. And the guy eventually just decided that he didn't want to come. He's got his wife. They're covering this, and my wife and I are sitting there looking at it like, oh, my goodness. We may be moving tomorrow. And he went back to his team and decided he didn't want the trade. And I had to go into training camp 2-3 days later, and it's just a mindset that you got to be professional about your approach. You got a job to do. You're still getting paid by this organization, and you have to go in there and do your job. So yes, I've been in these situations before. With our group, you're always having situations where guys are in contract years and they're playing for something. And what we have to do, or what I have to do, is get across to our guys is that the best way to handle that is to win games. And that's what we'll be talking about tomorrow.
Hey, Coach, another John question. Earlier you mentioned getting the ball in the 5-man's hand. I wanted to ask about perhaps the 4, because I know he hasn't always had a defined role on offense. What will it look like this year? Will he kind of be freelancing again and just kind of, what exactly will John look like on offense this year?
Well, I mean, we don't play through the post. We spread the ball out, but we have to recognize mismatches. The game now, the way it's played, a lot of switching, and I didn't think that last year we were able to take advantage of that. And that's a two-way system in a sense that you have to recognize where your mismatch is at. Then you have to get the ball to that matchup, and then that guy has to win his matchup. So Miami, perfect example, they switched 1 through 5. So, where's our matchup? And if that's in the post, then we have to drop the ball, and then that guy in the post has to win his matchup. John was hurt during that time, but, the guy that we kind of played through was Gallo in that situation. And until you develop that style of play and you recognize and those guys do something with the basketball, teams are going to continue to do that. Most of the time, our advantages has been on the perimeter with Trey matched up against a big. So those are things that, it's nothing new. Some teams are not going to change, and you got to have the weapons to be able to win those matchups when the opponent gives you those matchups. And, last year we really had 1 or 2 guys that could win those matchups. This year I think we, with Murray, adding Murray to the lineup, he should be able to do that. And then John has to develop that post game when they do put a small on him, taking advantage of that.